be what you want it to be.
Yeah.
But your purpose is what will make you wake up in the morning and want to do something special, something extraordinary that nobody else does.
Are you one of those people that believe that money is the root of all evil?
No, absolutely not.
So we need money. So Mr. Dlali needs money too.
Yeah, I need money too. What I have noticed, however, is that money always follows purpose. If I ask a young guy, please come and babysit for me, they'll be like, "Ish, you know, I've got things to do."
A lot to do.
Yeah.
Allow me to use your own medicine against you for a second. You once spoke to us about the professions that you were into for what you're doing currently, and how the financial reward that you were getting was so higher than what you're doing right now. Is that perhaps something you look back at now and regret? Like somebody comes to you and puts it as bluntly as possible. Who is God?
Who is
God to you?
God?
Yes.
God, elderly people, sometimes we look at them and think, "Ish, they're boring," because they also still can achieve a lot,
So,
even at our age. But the difference is that we now have a lot of mistakes we've made in the past, and because of those mistakes, we've learned. Not because of successes. The successes I hardly ever talk about, but the failures and the mistakes are what made me to be what I am.
so I really hope you're going to be open for an insightful conversation with me today.
Well, that's
It's on. Right. Cool. Behind the cover, thank you so much for joining us today. My guest today is a very special man. In fact, we have to drive all the way to Mpumalanga just to get this sit down in this chat. Please help me welcome Mr. Fikile Dlali. Welcome to the channel, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Masagwa.
How are you doing, sir?
Super.
Yeah, I thought we'd
It's a wonderful time. Being here. It's wonderful weather, but also I'm enjoying this area. Every time I come here, it brings so much peace, so much tranquility.
Yeah. Now it is peaceful. I was experiencing the same thing also. I was just explaining to a friend of mine earlier today on why we launched our channel with the name Behind the Cover. Because I believe every individual has got an interesting story to tell. And so as much as we all have interesting stories, the thing that takes away the convenience of the story is what we present to the world as the cover. And you, I have to say, have got a very interesting cover to yourself. And so I gravitate towards that. And with that being said, sir, I really hope you're going to be open for an insightful conversation with me today.
Well, let's hope it's something positive and something good that will add value to your program and to the listeners.
Yeah. All right. Well, allow me to take it as far back as your childhood. What type of childhood would you say you had?
I'd say I had a very lucky childhood. I always consider myself fortunate.
All right.
Because both my parents were there. We grew up today in a society where it's very difficult to have both a father and a mother raise up the child.
Yeah.
And also I'm fortunate because both my parents raised me up in such a way that I learned about God from an early age.
Sure.
And also they supported everything we did, from extramural activities to schooling, to everything. Of course, there were parents just like any other parents.
Yeah.
But one of the most important things really is a father who always believed in us.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you speak about knowing about God at a very early age. How did that shape the way in which you see the world? How did that allow you to navigate through life in a sense that, saying you were lucky growing up? Did you ever at some point look at life as being unbalanced? And I'm speaking of this from the other side of the coin, because I'm guessing when you say you're lucky, you could afford growing up.
Every parent has got a favorite.
Sure.
There were 4 of us in the family as siblings.
Yeah.
So again, I believe that I was a favorite of my parents.
That's so lucky.
That's very lucky.
Sure.
That's what I'm saying. A big part of the reason was because, one, I did very well at school
All right.
from a very early age.
Sure.
Secondly, I was the first boy, so there were two ladies ahead of me.
Okay.
With my two sisters, then was me and my younger brother.
Sure.
So they couldn't wait to have a boy. They had two girls initially, and they were praying for a boy. So I was the first boy. So I was definitely one of the luckiest in the family.
Yeah.
Also, the way that they related to me, I feel like I got away with a lot in terms of things that they allowed me to have. They didn't spoil me, that's for sure. And I believe in terms of treatment, they treated us all the same.
Sure.
But I was still the favorite.
Well, did that ever take away that ability in you to perhaps hustle for yourself? Because as you said, you were the favorite. So did you get away with so many things to the point where you just got so used to getting things easily, and there was no sense of struggle?
Yes, I don't get me wrong. My parents were very strict, and with all of us, they made sure that we do what we got. I got a hiding as a kid, just like any other kid.
Sure.
I had to do my chores just like any other kid.
Right.
Sometimes I was off, balance myself. I didn't do what I was always supposed to be doing. And I did get what I deserved.
Yeah.
And that's how life worked. The only reason I say I was a favorite was because, yes, I managed to achieve a lot from a very early age. And it's not only because of achievement, but because I was the firstborn boy.
Sure.
So naturally they had that love for me that was obvious to everybody else, that it's more than just everybody else's.
Well, so being the firstborn in that sense, were you ever
Firstborn guy, man, boy,
well, firstborn on the
on the side of boys.
on the side of boys? Well, did that ever come with some sort of pressure? Because when you're the firstborn, there's that pressure that you have to succeed, you have to achieve something great. Was that ever the case? Whenever you would be back to yourself personally?
I think I put pressure on myself, not because I was a firstborn, but because I've always wanted to achieve.
Sure.
And I did achieve everything I wanted to achieve at some stage, especially early on in life.
Well,
I'm talking about, of course, I'm talking about academically,
yeah.
in terms of friendships, in terms of extracurricular activities, but also in terms of goals in general.
Sure.
That I did have for myself.
Well, so you've achieved, as you said, everything that you wanted to achieve.
Yes. And it wasn't because my parents put pressure on me.
Yeah.
But that was because I was ambitious as a
Sure.
young man.
Well, does that also include the finance aspect of things? Because, you're speaking about achieving everything, and obviously, we all have goals and objectives, but now we cannot exclude the finance aspect of it, can we?
Right. I would say everything, in a sense that finance has never been an issue for me. My parents were not rich, but they could afford basic things.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to live a life of purpose from a very early age.
Yeah.
So yes, in that sense, I was successful.
Well,
And it didn't always come with good financial packages, but I wasn't aiming for that.
Sure.
So yes, I did achieve what I wanted to achieve in terms of a purposeful life.
yeah. Well, allow me to dwell on that a little, because that's one of the things we actually speak about
Yes.
a lot of the times here. How important is your purpose to you? Just discovering what you think you were put on earth to do.
First, let me start by saying, any person who has no purpose in life
Yeah.
lives a very empty life. And it's not just about me.
Sure.
So in a sense, I really do believe everyone should have a purpose in life, including companies and businesses.
Yeah.
I've noticed that businesses that, even if they just sell a simple product, but once they have a purpose attached to that,
Yeah.
they tend to be very successful. So purpose, I believe, for me, is more important even than financial achievement.
For sure.
Because financial achievement may not always be what you want it to be.
Yeah.
but your purpose is what will make you wake up in the morning and want to do something special,
Yeah.
something extraordinary
Sure.
that nobody else does.
Well, so are you saying everybody should have a purpose, or is it that we all have a purpose and it's just a matter of discovering said purpose?
It's both.
It's both.
Everybody should have a purpose,
Yeah.
whether you discover it now or later.
Sure.
But everybody should have a purpose. And if you don't know what your purpose is, and you're not even seeking what your purpose is,
Yeah.
then that's where I say you live an empty life.
Well-
And I can say that with confidence.
So at what point exactly in your life, reflecting back in your own life, would you say you think you found your purpose? And what do you think that was at the time that you discovered it?
All right. So let me start by saying to you that I've always believed I want to be a doctor, and
Sure.
but being a doctor was not a purpose in itself. The purpose
Okay.
of being a doctor obviously was because I wanted to have impact in people's lives.
Sure.
What changed, however, is that I realized that I can still impact people's lives without being a doctor,
Yeah.
by doing other things.
Yeah.
So that's where now I'm beginning to talk to you about what a purpose really is. There are many ways in which, for example, you can have an impact in people's lives. However, it depends also in what way. So initially it was physically that I wanted to have an impact in people's lives. And I realized life is more than just a physical being, because being a doctor is
Sure.
basically providing people's needs physically. But also from a spiritual point of view and from a consciousness point of view.
Yeah.
That's where I began to realize that's where my purpose is.
Mm.
That everybody should understand, number one, have a deep understanding of how important spirituality is,
Yeah.
but also how important it is for one to have a greater awareness of themselves and of their role in this universe.
Well, how exactly would you put that for somebody who's very, well, let's say to the average person, at a very base level, argument? Because I usually get this around as a Christian myself from very different individuals, So now, to you, Mr. Dlali, somebody comes to you and puts it as bluntly as possible. Who is God?
Who is
God to you?
God?
Yes.
God is who is the one who created you,
Sure.
who brought you into existence, who brings everything that we see into existence. I'm not talking about what is man-made. I'm talking
Sure.
about if you just look around.
Yeah.
But God is the very essence of why we are here today.
Yeah.
And that's how I'll put it. So if I can wake up in the morning and breathe, it's because God is there. If God didn't allow that, and if God didn't want that, I wouldn't even wake up.
Sure.
I wouldn't even breathe.
Yeah.
And I've said that to my boys from the time they were kids and they didn't understand anything. And I've said to them, they were asking me, how big is God? I said, well, how big are your arms? Stretch them out like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And that's how big God is.
Sure.
So he encompasses everything. He is everything. He's in everything
Yeah.
that lives and that exists. Anything that is dead has no God in it.
Well, you spoke about spirituality being very essential to life. Why exactly would you tell somebody that spirituality is extremely important in the life that we live? In what way would you put that?
Right. So first of all, I'm looking at you right now, and I'm seeing just the physical part of you.
Sure.
But you are more than that, right?
Yeah.
And there's a part of you that is inside of you that I cannot see but it exists. The reason why you live and are able to exist is because of the spirit in you.
Sure.
That spirit was given to you by God. Now, if God gave you that spirit, that means that spirit knows where it belongs. It belongs to God.
Yeah.
However, that spirit is also being contested for by the opposite of God, which is evil. Now, spirituality means you feed that spirit every single day like you feed your body.
Yeah.
My body needs food, needs water, needs everything. But the spirit needs God
Sure.
in order to be able to be what it needs to be.
Yep.
Now, spirituality to me is your ability to connect with God on a spiritual level. And if you can do that, then to me that is spirituality.
Yeah.
Because when you connect with God who gave you the spirit and that allows you to him, that's the spirit that allows you to even have a purpose that is driven by God
Yeah.
himself.
Sure.
Without that spirit of God, you are dead. You don't exist.
Yeah.
Because this body that we have is just a flesh.
Sure.
It's just a container of the spirit.
Yeah.
So by spirituality, I mean you are able to listen to what God naturally tells you.
Yep.
And all of us, naturally, God says, love other people. Be concerned about others. Take care of the environment.
Sure. Well, speaking of spirituality right there, maybe the last point, because I also wanted to link it with something you said earlier about financial achievement not being as imperative. You know, I've got this issue with Christians that do not think that, you know, money is as essential and as important to living generally. You know, now, are you one of those people that believe that money is the root of all evil?
No, absolutely not. Important and essential is a word that describes itself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We live in this world.
Sure.
We don't exist in a vacuum.
Mm.
Therefore, we do need to be able to pay our bills.
Sure.
We do need to be able to raise our children and pay fees.
Yeah.
We do need to pay our taxes because we live in this world.
Sure.
So in that sense, yes, money is essential. Some people have the gift that is very different from others. Each one of them, others have the gift of being able to make money, lots of money.
Yeah.
And that money, then they can be able to use for purposes that are in line with God.
Yeah.
Other people's gifts may be to spread the word. Other people's gifts may be to work with youth and make sure that. So we all have different gifts. Others may have be that. So whatever gift you have, use it.
Sure.
However, every single human being needs to be able to pay their taxes because we live in this world.
Yeah.
So without money, how are you going to be able to pay your taxes? Right?
So we need money. So Mr. Dlali needs money too.
Yeah, I need money too.
Yeah.
What I have noticed, however, is that money always follows purpose. There is a passage in the Bible, and I like to quote it. It's funny, and I think about it. Not that it's bad,
Yeah.
but it says, to the wicked, God gives the task of making and collecting money so that they can give to the righteous.
Oof.
Now, if you think about that, it's in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 8.
Sure.
It's a very essential scripture, and I believe it's very important. The righteous need money, but where is it going to come from? There are those who have been given the task of going to get that money, make that money, and make sure that the righteous have it. Whether the righteous have it through business, whether they have it through other means, but they will have that money.
Yeah.
And that's the way it's been with me as well. I've always had money to take care of essential things.
Yeah.
I'm not rich,
Sure.
but I've never aimed at being rich. I do think that it would be good if I was rich.
Yeah.
I would do more. But there's a certain extent to which God allows us to have what we have and to achieve what we can achieve.
Yeah. Well, drawing back to what you said earlier, and you mentioning the youth, as somebody who's been into different professions, as you said earlier on, I was intrigued by that also. You've had this very, you've had quite the quintessential experience of life, and looking at it from an aspect of somebody that's lived a good part of their lives already, and reflecting back on us who are the youth right now, what would you say are some of the concepts that come to mind when we're talking about the downsides of the youth today?
Please repeat the last part when you're talking about what of the youth?
The downside, some of the effects, some of the factors that's depreciating value in the youth right now.
I think the youth today don't have a lot of opportunities to sit with elder people.
Yeah.
And gain wisdom. There are two places where you gain wisdom.
Sure.
One is with the elders, and one is with kids that are less than 3 years old. And I'm saying that for a reason.
I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, you gain wisdom from kids because of their simplicity,
Sure.
because of their ability to trust and learn.
Yeah.
They learn very quickly.
Yeah.
And that's wisdom right there. And you tend to lose that a little bit when you go to your youth because you
Sure.
think you know everything.
Yeah.
But kids, they don't think they know everything, but they learn. That's what they do. And they always imitate what they see. If they live with someone who is cruel and angry, they're going to be like that.
Sure.
If they live with someone who's happy and welcoming, they're going to be like that. So you learn wisdom from kids. You also learn wisdom from the elderly, just like you said, because
Yeah.
they've lived life. They now can see things from a different perspective.
Definitely.
But my biggest issue with youth today is that they don't have enough time with kids. I used to babysit a lot when I was
Yeah.
a youth.
I think they would say kids are boring.
Exactly.
You know, that's the
But
thing.
there's a lot of wisdom in the
Sure.
kids.
Yeah.
But also the exposure to a lot of people who have been through things and sit with, like you are doing right now.
Sure.
And expose yourself to them, sit with them, ask them questions, ask them why. Why did you do this? How do you feel about what you did in the past? Do you have any regrets? Do you have any this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I promise you, you will learn tremendously many things. Even if you don't ask much, just sit next to them and hear them speak.
Sure.
And I'm not saying spend all your life with elderly people or with young people. There's a time for everything.
Yeah. Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
I know for sure that during my days, any elderly parent, neighbors, friends, people at church would ask me to come and babysit. I'd do that with pleasure. And I'd look after the kids, young kids, and I'd sit them with there the whole evening while they go out and have a bit of time.
Yeah.
It's not easy today. If I ask a young guy, please come and babysit for me, they'll be like, ish, you know, I've got things to do.
A lot to do.
Yeah. And elderly people, you know, sometimes we look at them, we think, ish, they're boring because they're talking about the good old days.
Yeah. Yeah.
We also have ambition. We also have goals still. We also still can achieve a lot.
Sure.
Even at our age.
Yeah.
But the difference is that we now have a lot of mistakes we've made in the past. And because of those mistakes, we've learned.
Sure.
Not because of successes. The successes I hardly ever talk about. But the failures and the mistakes are what made me to be what I am.
Sure.
Today.
Yeah. Well, allow me to then say this because, you know, I'm sorry, but allow me to use your own medicine against you for a second. So you spoke about being able to ask, you know, the older people on some of their regrets and, you know, why. So, you know, I think you once spoke to us about the professions that you were into before what you're doing currently and how the financial reward that you were getting was so higher than what you're doing right now. Is that perhaps something you look back at now and regret?
I have absolutely no regrets. I think my purpose-driven life has taken me through ups and downs.
Sure.
And that's a reflection of life. Life has its ups and downs.
Yep.
And if you cannot look at the situation and assess it and accept when you are at a high and accept when you're at a low, then you'll drive yourself mad and you'll go into serious depression.
Yeah.
No, that's another part where I've been very fortunate about is that I've learned to look at life and assess it and say, well, this is where I'm at the moment. I still have goals, I still have ambitions, and I can still achieve a lot more than what I am right now. But I have absolutely no regret because, like I said, everything I've experienced has contributed to who I am and how I relate to other people.
Definitely. Well, for the sake of time, sir, we unfortunately have to stop now. But I know for a fact that we are going to have a second sit down with you. But before I let you go, I'm going to have to do something, and I'm sorry for catching off guard, sir. We actually do this with everybody that comes on the channel. So I'm going to ask you 4 questions, and we need one-liners to all these questions. Question number 1, sir. How would you describe your purpose currently? Your purpose. If you had to define what you think your purpose is for the time being.
My purpose right now is to create a new generation of youth that thinks differently about how we thought, and I can achieve a lot more than we did.
It's powerful. Well, question number 2, sir. What is the best advice that you would say you were ever given?
Learn to appreciate life and learn to forgive yourself for your mistakes.
Yeah. Question number. Oh, sorry. You can carry on.
Continue.
Well, I was gonna jump to the third question, but you can carry on. So the third question: what is the worst advice on the other side that you've ever received?
Is to give advice when it was not needed.
Yeah, that says a lot. But yeah, I hear you on that. That's actually a lot of the times the case that we deal with. Last but not least, if you were given a chance to pass out a rule or a law that everyone else in the world has to follow, what is that gonna be?
A law that everyone else in the world would have to follow.
Sure.
There's none other than the law of God. Righteousness is the only law that I would say. Be righteous. Do the right thing.
Sure.
There's so many rights that people can do, but in every situation, don't wait for somebody to. Don't do something good just because somebody's watching.
Yeah.
And don't do something bad just because you think no one is watching.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that is so powerful. This is what I'm saying, right? We definitely need a part 2 because there's actually so much to talk about still. But more than everything, sir, I want to sincerely take this time to thank you for allowing us into your busy schedule. It's been a huge pleasure having you, and we hope to sit more and talk more in the near future. But above everything, thank you so much for your time, sir. It was a good pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me, and all the best.
Not a problem, sir. Thank you.
Program.
All right. Cheers. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Come on, Dlali. Come on.